Hi everyone, welcome to this presentation. Today we're going to talk about nature in the UK. So nature, national parks, wildlife, and also climate change and the risks of climate change. Okay, so this presentation, it will look at the national parks in the UK, some information about the national parks, the wildlife in the UK, the animals and types of animals we find in the UK, and also climate change and its impact on the UK. Okay, and here you can see two photos already from national parks in the UK. And of course, the weather in the national parks, it changes. In the winter sometimes you have snow and ice like here. And of course in the summer you have the sun, warm weather, higher temperatures. Okay, so national parks. Here you can see a map of the UK, of Great Britain, and here you can see labelled the different national parks. So the idea for having national parks was created in 1949, and the first national park, which was this one, the Peak District, opened 2 years later, 1951. And now there are 15 national parks in the UK. 15. And they're all free. Entry is free because people live in the parks and things like this. And you can go on this website, nationalparks.uk. It has information about the national parks, photographs, things like this. It's good. It's also good to follow on Instagram, post nice photos. Okay, so of course in the national parks, many outdoor activities, many types of sport are very popular. So people go to the national parks and they go camping, they go hiking, they go cycling, mountain biking, horse riding. They do extreme sports like paragliding or things like this. Also mountain climbing, and sometimes in the winter, skiing. So many different activities people like to do in the national parks. I'd say the main activities, the most popular ones, are these first three: hiking, cycling, and camping. Of course, people often hike and then camp. So let's have a look at some of the more famous national parks. Probably the most famous one is the Lake District. If we look back at this map, you can see the Lake District here in the north of England. It's one of the biggest national parks. And it's very, well, you can tell by the name, there are many lakes, so mountains, lakes. It's very beautiful. Another one that's also in the north of England, you have the Yorkshire Dales. Again, lots of hills like this, some famous architecture, famous bridges, small villages. People live there, but they're very small villages, maybe 50 people, 100 people. And the Yorkshire Dales are famous in the summer. There's these flowers, and all the hills, they turn purple. And I'm from very close to the Yorkshire Dales. From my house to the Yorkshire Dales, in the car, is maybe like 30 minutes. And of course, Scotland has some famous national parks too. As you can see in the winter, the national parks in Scotland, they have snow and are popular for skiing. And there's also a lot more wildlife in the national parks in Scotland compared to other parts of the country. Okay, so let's look at some of the wildlife in the UK. The UK's national parks has many different types of wildlife, a wide variety of animals. Wildlife is another word we can use for animals, the animals that live in the wild that aren't pets. So let's look first at mammals, the medium, big-sized mammals. So the most famous examples in the UK are these. So we have the fox, the badger, and the red deer. You also find foxes in the cities, but they're very different to foxes in the countryside. Again, we have more bigger sized animals. We have the wild boar. We have the Scottish wildcat. It's a little bit bigger than a cat you have as a pet. And we also have another famous type of deer. It's the fallow deer. Of course, we have other types of deer as well, but these two are the most famous ones. And we have some smaller mammals as well. The red squirrel. We also have the grey squirrel, but the red squirrel is the native squirrel. The pine marten is very rare, difficult to find. And the hedgehog. Of course, there's many different birds in the UK as well. So some of the bigger birds, we have the osprey, a type of eagle that eats fish. The golden eagle, which is the biggest bird in the UK. And the barn owl. Of course, barn owls, and this one, the tawny owl, these come out in the night time. So they're nocturnal birds. The heron, another bird that eats fish. And this one in Scotland, the capercaillie. And of course there's some famous smaller birds as well. The puffin that lives on the coast by the seaside, eats fish. The woodpecker, kingfisher, and these guys as well. The robin. You often see the robin in the winter when there's snow. You see the robin. And it's very easy to identify because of its red body. Red chest. We've got the jay and the blue tit. It's a very small bird, but very colourful. Okay, what about UK animals in the future? Well, there are some people who support the reintroduction of animals that used to exist in the UK, but don't anymore. So in the past, they existed hundreds of years ago. Some people want to reintroduce these animals. So like the bear, the wolf, the lynx, or the beaver. So predators, big animals. And this process of reintroduction is called rewilding. It helps to rebalance the ecosystem. So maybe in the future we will have bears and wolves and lynxes in the wild in the UK. And finally, to talk about climate change in the UK, what are the risks? So with climate change in the UK, means there are more and more extreme weather events. So it's not that it's going to be hotter and hotter weather, more sun. Sometimes it's much more rain, so more extreme weather events like flooding and drought. So the two extremes, too much rain and not enough rain, too much hot weather. And in recent years, we've had both flooding and drought. So these are the main risks for climate change in the UK. So as you can see, the UK has a lot of nature, a lot of national parks, a lot of green spaces with animals and wildlife, and it's definitely worth visiting if you visit the UK. Obviously you should visit cities like London or Edinburgh, but it's very important to go to the countryside, visit national parks and this sort of thing, do some activities there and look for wildlife. So thank you for listening to the presentation and have a nice day. Bye-bye.